start with student liaison.
For the report for the RMHS. On December 9th, there was a December Song concert where the musical choirs and jazzmen performed holiday songs. December 19th was the winter pep rally for the boys and girls basketball, winter track, wrestling, and the unified basketball teams. The boys basketball and girls basketball teams are underway. The boys are struggling so far in the rebuilding of this year, and the girls are 2-3 for the season. Vermont High School won the 2025 Lady Royals basketball tournament. Unfortunately, track had a meet yesterday, but the first one had been canceled on December 23rd. Wrestling had its first official varsity match as a standalone program in over 20 years this past Saturday, and went 2-1 at the quad. They beat Dwight Laurel in South Hunterston. This is a huge step in the right direction for the future of the program. Unified basketball held its first 2 practices before the break. We have 28 of our 11 center students participating with 4 general education students assisting. We will have our first game, we had our first game January 14th against the Banyan School. It will take place during school days at 12 p.m. We will also have games on the following days. January 21st, home versus Pompton Lakes. January 28th, away at Pompton Lakes. February 4th, home versus New Milford. And February 11th at New Milford. We are excited for this new program and will look to build on in the future by adding more sports and involving many more students. For Slocums, January 8th, they had their picture retakes. January 14th, the marching band from the high school came down to Slocum and performed. January 20th, Veolia Educational Outreach Water Science Program Assembly for Middle School was held. January 20th, parent meeting for Foss Valley happened. January 29th, middle school movie night will happen for the 7th grade fundraisers. January 30th, the 6th grade field trip to Liberty Science Center. For Bergen, prior to the winter break, all staff and students participated in a holiday spirit week, joined together to sing festive songs during our annual holiday sing-along, and enjoyed watching a short film, prep and landing, while snacking on popcorn generously provided by the PTA. Through the Lions Kids Site USA program, the Lions Club of District 16-9 will conduct a vision screening for all students who choose to participate at Bergen Boulevard on February 4th, 2026. In addition, all staff and students will once again participate in Great Kindness Week challenge from January 26th to 30th. Throughout the week, students will learn about acts of kindness through books and videos and will engage in various activities that promote kindness, empathy, and positive behavior. Students at Bergen Boulevard will also be collecting spare change from January 20th to the 30th to support Tackle Kids Cancer, an organization dedicated to raising critical funds for pediatric cancer research and patient care. Proceeds directly benefit patients and families at Joseph N. Sanzari Children's Hospital and K. Hovenayan Children's Hospital, supporting clinical care, innovative services, and groundbreaking research aimed at finding a cure. For Share. At Share Academy, we hosted a school-wide spirit week and holiday sing-along just before winter recess. This week, we began collecting spare change for Tackle Kids Cancer, which is an organization that benefits local pediatric centers and cancer students at Hackensack Meridian Children's Hospital. We will be collecting spare change until January 30th for this organization. We will also be participating in the Great Kindness Challenge the week of January 26th through to January 30th. Our culminating event for the Great Kindness Challenge and Tackle Kids Cancer fundraiser will be a dance-a-thon on January 30th. That is all.
Thank you. Welcome to the superintendent report.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to our January meeting. We're going to go a little bit out of order today. We're going to have our auditors come forward and present their findings. This is number 4 on the superintendent's report, the annual comprehensive financial report. This is our year-end audit for the budget year that ended June 30th, 2025. So essentially last school year. Our auditing company is a third-party well-respected company. They look at our finances over the summer into the fall. They provide the Board of Ed with the annual audit report of all of our finances over the preceding 12 months. Once it's approved by the board tonight, we'll send it down to Trenton. We'll post it on their website, and we'll post it on our website as well if anybody cares to look at it. Okay, this is in addition to the internal controls that Mr. Hiciano does every month. On top of that, we also have a position called a treasurer of school monies, which is an outside third party who reviews our financial statements every month as well. So, without further ado, our 2024-2025 audit report.
Thank you, Dr. Anamone. Good evening, board members. Thank you for having me here tonight to present the audit. Our main responsibility after we complete the audit of the books and records is to express opinions on your financial statements and opinions on your compliance with grant awards, federal and state grant awards. Our opinions on both the financial statements and on the grant compliance is unmodified. Unmodified means a clean opinion, which means the financial statements are fairly stated, prepared in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles, and there were no scope limitations in performing the audit, and you complied in all material respects with your grant requirements. Unmodified opinion in a financial statement audit and in an audit of grant compliance is an absolute must. Any modification means there is an issue with the financial statements, meaning the numbers may not be accurate, and any modification to grant compliance means you didn't comply and potentially owe money back to the grantor agency. So in both cases are modified, clean opinions. We also have to report on whether you have any material weaknesses in internal controls over financial reporting and over grant compliance, and I'm happy to report we have no such findings. We also have to report on any significant deficiencies in internal control. These are lesser than material weaknesses, but important enough to comment as a significant deficiency. Again, we had no findings that rose to the level of a significant deficiency in either grant compliance or financial reporting. We had no reportable instances of non-compliance in the audit. We had two general findings that I'll review later. We just had a meeting with the Finance Committee, went over all the fund balance. I'll quickly go through it for the rest of the board members. You have two reports in front of you. One is a clear cover book, which is the comprehensive annual financial report. It's where our opinion is, all financial statements are. But one of the most important schedules in that report is the Exhibit C1, starts on page 74, ends on page 79. It's a line-by-line accounting of your general fund budget. Your general fund budget is the major operating fund of the district. Probably 98% of your expenses, if not 99% of your expenses and revenues take place there or accounted for there. At the end of that schedule on page 79 is a summary of fund balance, and you as board members are going to deliberate very shortly on the 26-27 budget. And you're going to want to know what kind of fund balances we have available to fund expenses in that 26-27 budget. And page 79 gives you a breakdown of the fund balances you had at the end of the year. Not all fund balance is available to be used for any purpose. There's certain fund balances that have been set aside by board resolution for specific purposes. I'm going to go through them. I'm going to go right down the line. Under restricted fund balance, the first item you see there is capital reserve of $6,916,214. Represents money that the board has set aside by resolution to fund capital projects in the long-range facility plan. These are projects for school facility improvements. Can't be used for administration, can't use it for the building up top for administration, only for school facilities. and projects that are in the long-range facility plan. This $6.9 million has not been earmarked for any specific project. It's available going forward to fund any project the board wishes to do in that plan. If during the year you want to do a project that's in the plan, the board simply does a resolution, withdraws money out of this capital reserve, and it funds that project. In addition to that, you had capital reserve designated for subsequent year expenditures, meaning you're using those funds in the 25-26 budget of $500,000. It's funding a project in that budget. If you don't use all those funds on that project, that whatever's remaining goes back to the undesignated portion, which is $6.9 million. You also have maintenance reserve. Maintenance reserve, again, is put aside by the district through board action in the resolution. We had $1,002,270 of undesignated maintenance reserve, meaning these funds are available for maintenance projects. Maintenance is different than capital. Capital adds value to buildings and adds life to the building, meaning like an addition, a replacement of all the windows in the school. Maintenance just keeps the building in their current working conditions. You repair a roof, you replace a door. It's not a complete redo of anything. You have $1,002,270 of undesignated maintenance reserve and $320,000 of maintenance reserve. That's in the 25-26 budget. And again, if you don't spend all that $320 on those maintenance projects, it'll go back to the undesignated portion of $1 million. Both the capital reserve and the maintenance reserve cannot be used to pay operating costs. You can't use it for tuition costs, health benefits, teacher salaries, administrator salaries. It's been set aside in these reserves for that specific purpose and basically stays in there. If you appropriate, don't use it, it goes back. This year, the district chose to establish an emergency reserve of $350,000. This is a very restricted reserve under the statute. You can only use it by board action two ways. You can appropriate it in the adopted budget for security projects, or you can use it during the year by resolution to fund unbudgeted health benefit costs that exceed 4%. Any other purpose requires the Commissioner of Education's approval. You'd have to be basically wiped out in order to get that approval. It's a good reserve to have. It's a reserve of last resort. It's like the savings that you dip into at the end. And hopefully you'll never need it. Next two items, tuition adjustments. In New Jersey, districts that collect tuition, such as yourself, and all districts pretty much pay tuition out. The rates that you charge, the tuition rates that you charge, and the tuition rates you pay are estimated rates. The state of New Jersey, when all the audits are done, takes the audit numbers and calculates what the actual certified tuition rate is. And whatever that rate comes to, if it's higher than what you charged, you can bill additional billings. If it's less than what you charged, you have to refund that money back to the district. And the same for the tuition you pay. If you pay a rate that was higher than certified, you get a refund. If you pay a rate that is less, they can send you an additional bill. The state allows you to put 10% of that tuition revenue or expense in a reserve. At the end of 24-25, you have $500,000 in that reserve to cover you in case you have to refund tuition back for the magnet program, or if you have to pay tuition, additional tuition bills because the rates were too low than they charged you. If you don't use this reserve during this year, it has to be used as a revenue source in the 26-27 budget. It can't be used for nothing else. and it appears that we will not need it for the 24-25. The next tuition reserve is the tuition reserve established in June 30th of 24 of $800,000. Those funds were not utilized in 24-25. We did have to refund some funds back, but we had sufficient money on hands to cover it. So this $800,000 is being used in 25-26 as a revenue source to fund that budget. So those funds are not available anymore. They're funding current year expenses. We have the next two items of excess surplus. In New Jersey, if your unassigned surplus is over 2%, whatever you don't transfer into the reserve goes in what's called an excess surplus reserve. At the end of June 30th, 25, when we closed you out, we made all the transfers. You had $1,500,371. Those funds can only be used as a revenue source in the 26-27 budget. So that's the minimum amount of fund balance you'll see as anticipated in your budget. That compares to the year before, which is significant. The balance on June 30th, 25 is significantly less than what you had in 24. At the end of 24, you had $2.5 million. And that $2.5 million is being used in 25-26 budget. Effective July 1, that money's gone. It's funding expenses now, and that number gets recalculated at the end of June 30th of 26. We also had under assigned year-end encumbrances roughly $280,000. Those are monies that are committed to future purchases. You actually made the purchases, but you didn't get the goods. You don't owe anybody money, but once that stuff gets delivered, you owe them the money. And this assignment captures those funds so that when those goods come in, you can pay them out of these encumbrances. In addition to the $2.5 million of excess surplus you had to use in the 25-26 budget, you used an additional $1,283,476 of assigned fund balance designated for subsequent years' expenditures. Those funds, again, almost close to $1.3 million, is being used to fund 25-26 expenses. So again, July 1, they are no longer available. So between the $2.5 million and the roughly $3 million, that's $3.8 million of fund balance to fund the 25-26 budget, of which right now you're looking at roughly $1.5 million. That leaves you with unassigned fund balance. Unassigned fund balance in New Jersey, you can only have 2% of your budget. It is absolutely too low. It used to be 6%, cut it to 4%, and they cut it to 2%. It's not a big number in comparison to your budget. You have 2% plus you're allowed to add certain unbudgeted aid to it. So your 2% is roughly $830. Your extraordinary aid, the unbudgeted state aid, is roughly $665, and that's how you get to the $1,492,559. Just looking forward, we talked about this at finance. The 26-27 budget will be very challenging. There will be tremendous pressure on it. It's no different for any other district in the state of New Jersey. Health benefit costs are going up anywhere from 28% to 32%. That's a devastating number. It's a significant portion of your budget. That, coupled with the diminishing fund balance that's available, will make the budget challenging. It's a critical year. Can't start overestimating revenues and cutting things and not really cutting them. You gotta really monitor the budget, prepare it in a very fiscally responsible way. You don't wanna end up like Montclair and this is going on, a lot of districts are suffering. With all the COVID money that's not available anymore, it's just not funds available. So, you're in pretty stable condition, but the next budget is critical, and this year you're in is critical. If there's any questions on fund balance, I'll answer them, or if you want me to wait, I got just 2 recommendations to go through real quick. We had 2 general recommendations one regarding purchasing. We need to just kind of tighten a couple of the procedures up regarding resolutions, making sure the resolution specifically indicate how a item was procured, meaning you went out to bid, you bought it through a cooperative, you bought it through a state contract, or it's a professional service award and it's not subject to bid. Another item we noted is you had a change order to a contract, wasn't approved by board action. The board has to approve any change order to a contract. You approve the contract, you gotta approve any change in that contract, up or down. Cooperatives, this is an issue that is with every school district. You're allowed to purchase through a cooperative purchasing program. These are other government agencies that go out to bid for products, goods, and services, and you could piggyback off that bid. So you don't have to go out to bid, and you could award it to that co-op. But you have to get the contract information from that co-op, the price list, to see what was awarded under that co-op, and you gotta compare it to what the vendor charged you. Our experience in the districts we do is a lot of times these contracts are expired, so they're not in effect. A lot of times they give you stuff that's not in the contract, and a lot of times they charge you different rates than what was in the contract. So you gotta do your due diligence. I think we only had 1 instance, but you gotta do your due diligence. You gotta watch these co-ops. You don't wanna get, overpay, or you don't wanna, award a contract that wasn't properly. Then the final recommendation was with the Shaler School Student Account. Those are accounts that are maintained at the school sites. They're monies that are collected by school organizations for student activities. We review the records and testing their expenditures. They didn't have any supporting documentation to the payments they made. We gotta kind of get them on board with the understanding is anytime you make a payment, there has to be some kind of invoice or receipt or something to support what that payment was. There was only 2, but both of them didn't have supporting documentation. It's a very non-active account, but it's nip it in the bud before it starts getting real active. That's my report. If there's any findings, questions, we want to have to answer.
Being that you do several towns, what is the general cost savings when somebody's leaving the state benefits plan? Because my understanding is the state benefits plan is in trouble. And what I am seeing now is the locations that don't leave the benefits plan, because many are leaving now, the ones that are left now will be paying more money because more are leaving. So, what is the general cost savings when people leave the state health benefits plan?
I don't know what it is. I could just tell you that I know one district who had, the key is your experience rate. If you have a good experience rating, you can leave the state plan. I had one district that left the state plan, and instead of getting hit with a 30% increase, they're getting hit with a 10% increase. So 20%.
The reason why I'm saying this is because at my job, we are preliminarily exploring, and we will be saving about half on our paychecks, and the district, the town will be saving just as much money. So I'm just, is that?
Yeah, the biggest problem is your experience rating.
Okay.
If your experience rating is too high, no one's gonna pick you up. They're not picking you up. And what's happening is the people with the good experience rating are leaving the state plan, and all the high experience rating districts and municipalities are left. And that's gonna really put a big
Now,
pressure on that.
self-insurance, if somebody were to self-insure, As an auditor.
I'm not a proponent of self-insurance. It's kind of, what happens is, the first year, you pay, the problem with self-insurance is you pay claims, right? If you have terminal illnesses, you only need a couple of them. The cost goes through the roof.
But you can't put a stop loss on it?
You can, but you gotta pay for it. It's gonna be at least $1 million to stop.
Okay.
You could look into it. It's, you know, the key to self-insurance, to do it the right way, is what self-insurance has is what's called a tab, meaning there's claims that haven't been filed yet, but they know they're gonna happen because somebody's sick. So you're only paying for the claims that you have to pay. And to do it right is at the end of the year, you get a report of what is called incurred but not reported claims. And it's an estimate of really what it's gonna cost you for that year for the claims filed. And if you put that money aside, which nobody will rarely do, if you put that money aside, then you won't get yourself in trouble. If you don't put the money aside, when you try to get out, you're gonna pay a premium for the new insurance, and then you're gonna pay the one-off claims that still exist, and sometimes they last for a year and a half, 2 years. So that's, in the beginning, it's great, because you think you're saving all this money, but it's the back end where it catches up.
Okay.
So it's, you gotta look into it, and you gotta do it the right way.
Okay.
I had a
But it's
question.
an option.
It's not a math question, but, so for the maintenance reserve that you said it can't be used on operating expenses and it has to be specifically to maintenance, is it only structural? Because the examples you gave were very structural, but like, last month, I think we had a small project, the gym mats or something got replaced because they were exposed to the foam. And in the past, we've had like motion detector lights that's part of our like energy plan.
It's not structural, it's actually could be painting.
Oh, okay.
You could paint the classrooms, and that's.
So anything considered maintenance as long as the
Yeah,
school building.
annual maintenance to
Okay.
keep the building in its current condition.
Thank you.
How much are co-pays affecting insurance? If we increase, in the
It'll
future
go there,
premiums,
It'll help you.
how much will the savings be typically for a town?
I don't know. But it definitely helps. There's all kinds of stuff, so there's those cards they have, I think you guys are gonna get a presentation on that. You gotta think out of the box, because it's not only devastating to you for the employer, but the employees
It's
are
unsustainable.
contributing based on the premium. You're paying at 35%, it's gonna, your salary ain't going up there.
That's why
It's
we're
a
looking
big
at.
problem, it's a serious problem, and it's not just you, it's the whole state of New Jersey. And if you can get out, get out. If you can't, you gotta talk to the risk manager and see what other options you have, because there are other options. That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you, have a great night.
Thank you, Jim.
Good night. Good night.
Good job.
Good night.
So, we're gonna move into, I got a couple things. We're gonna, continue to go out of order, we're gonna go with the academic subcommittees update, Dr. Katz.
Yes.
This is our mid-year, almost, update on some of our academic subcommittees, some of the work that we've been doing basically since the late summer, early fall.
So we have a gifted and talented committee, and the gifted and talented committee is looking at our current services and eligibility process. They have surveyed, or they are in the midst of surveying other districts to see how their gifted and talented programs are running, so we can be sure that our program also is, current and up to date. And once that's completed, they will review the Richfield policy to make sure that the policy is in line with what's actually going on in the schools, and submit recommendations at a presentation to the board. We also have an honors and AP committee who are also reviewing current procedures. to our honors and AP eligibilities. Also, they will review the district policy to ensure, again, what's going on in the schools are exactly what is written in policy, and make any updates that are necessary to, the policy, and the presentation will be given to the board as well for that. And finally, we are reviewing the middle school math sequence of courses. The committee, has been surveying other districts to see what the sequence of math courses are in middle schools, and surrounding districts. And once that is complete, they will compile the information, create recommendations, and a presentation will be given to the board. So those policies are all in process now, and it will go to the superintendent and then the board when we're done. That's it.
Thank you. Next up, January is Board of Education Members Appreciation Month. We have certificates for every board member at your seat. We also have a resolution on our agenda tonight. This is a thank you on behalf of the whole community to our Board of Ed members. I've said this before, but what you see at the board meetings is like the tip of the iceberg. The amount of time they put in here is just a small fraction of the work our board members put in. They're volunteers, they're not paid. They don't have to be here, but we appreciate them. So thank you, Board of Education members, on behalf of all our students, our faculty and staff, and our parents as well. And lastly, there's a change to legal notice requirements beginning March 1st. Historically, we've published all of our legal notices in the newspapers, the Record, the Star Ledger, etc. Nobody produces a newspaper anymore, so there is a new law that we can now notice out all of our legal notices online. So we'll still post them on the bulletin boards of the school, of the board office, but we have a dedicated space on our website under Board of Ed. Click on that, and then click on legal notices, and you'll see all of our legal notices. It's probably the simplest way, which I think people were doing anyway, even prior to this. So now we're fully digital. That'll be starting March 1st officially, so keep your eyes open.
Thank you. So now we're gonna move into, committee report. We just started with the committee last week, so I don't foresee any comment, but I'll open it to the public. To the whole board to see if they want to. I know we met a couple today.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Joe, do you want to give any update on the Operation Finance Committee?
Oh, thank you, Mr. Morel. So the Operations and Finance Committee met earlier today before the meeting with Mr. Bliss, our auditor, who just presented, and basically we went through what Mr. Bliss went through with you all here in public. So it basically mirrored the committee, what we discussed in the committee, mirrored what his presentation was here in public. Thank you.
So I encourage all board members, I know there's a schedule for coming weeks of the committees and meetings, so do your best to attend.
Can I make a comment?
Sure.
So, real quick, just to go in order, Education Committee meets on February 4th, so stay tuned, but as the, NJSBA delegate, a lot has happened this month because of the change of governor. So I just want to, kind of keep everybody aware, if you've seen it in the news, that we're also aware about the cell phone law that was signed as one of the final acts by Governor Murphy. Members of this board were even present for that, and if they wanna add to that, they can speak on that. But that takes effect for next school year in the fall, and so that still has a lot of planning about how it will be implemented here. Also, one of the last acts of Governor Murphy was to sign a law for cursive to go back into the curriculum, once again for next school year. So also taking effect, those are kind of the two hot button things everybody's talking about right now. And recently, Dr. Lily Lowe, am I saying that correctly, Ms. Jacobs? Lily Lowe was appointed the new Commissioner of Education for the Department of Education. Depending on your news source, there are very mixed feelings because this person has a lot of experience from a lot of different states. I'll leave it at that. Also, we have a Bourbon County School Board Association meeting coming up on February 12th. That one is taking place virtually. They only meet about 4 or 5 times a year. The next meeting after that, the next regular meeting after that for the county will be in May. But before that, we have the Unsung Heroes, which a lot of us do attend. Is that open to the public?
No.
No, it's the unsung hero and we allocate a
Well, I know
certain
they
amount
can
of
bring
guests.
so many guests, like so many tickets for the student who's chosen, so. So we have the meeting coming up in February. There will be elections taking place at that meeting, it's virtual, and then the next thing after that for the county is the Unsung Heroes. And also, just a reminder to everybody here, since I am your delegate for the new year, if you would like to propose a resolution to be heard at the delegate assembly in May, there is a hard cutoff date of March 5th by 5 p.m. to propose any resolutions that you want heard and voted on by the entire state. And there is a very detailed process and detailed format. So it's not something you can just decide at 4:30 and submit via email. It's a process. If you would like more information, please see myself or Mr. Jacobs, who did it last year. He's also very experienced on it. We, as far as I've been here during my term, Richfield has never submitted any resolutions to that final stage of the delegate assembly. Thank you.
Can I piggyback on top? Thank you. Good evening. All right, I had the opportunity to spend a morning with the new commissioner. We have a group called the Lead Group, which is all the educational groups, the superintendents, the BAs, the PTA, NJSBA, I'm the president, ASBO, in other words, and collectively, we spent the morning with her, and she seems to be good, time will tell, and her background, she comes out of Western Massachusetts, but did quite a bit of her career in Austin, Texas. So hopefully, maybe she'll bring some of those 6 guns from Texas and straighten everything out. But in other words, time will tell, but she seems to be very positive, and we're looking forward to keeping a good relationship with her.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Jacob. So now I'm going to open to the for comment, resolution on discussion items only for the board.
Motion.
I'm not sure if it's only comment.
Yeah.
You said board, it's not public comment on the resolution.
Well, I wasn't sure, because
I attend the board, so for us first, and then I open to the.
please speak into the microphone so we can clearly hear you in the
Not
back.
working.
Then
We
maybe
get
we
him a
need
mic that
another
works.
microphone.
A president needs a good microphone.
I had two questions really, and they're not gonna affect how I vote, it's just questions that maybe for clarity. Is there a cap on the, budget for professional development? Cause I noticed some of them are free, and some of them are quite exorbitant for virtual. And not naming any specific ones, but there was 1 or 2 that I was like, wow, that's a lot of money for that, I hope it's a really needed training, and I'm sure that before it ever gets to us, that there's some sort of vetting process, that this is a legitimate, whatever. I was just wondering if there was a cap, if we have to make more cuts in the future, is that a
We do have a PD budget in this year's budget, a PD line in this year's budget, it's not being exceeded. Will it be the same as next year? It's hard to tell. There could be some cuts in that budget line for next year. Some of it is Title II money, I'm
Yes.
imagining, which is federal money that we have to spend or lose. Title II aid, I think.
And we do have a process for it. The PD request first goes to the principals, and actually Ms. Ramones is this for special education, and they don't all get approved actually. They don't approve them all. Then once it's approved at that level, it comes to me to look at, just to be sure that the PD is in line with, curriculum and what's going on in school and teacher needs and whatnot. And then after me, it goes to the superintendent, and then the superintendent decides if it goes on the agenda, so there's like a process for it.
And most workshops are covered, through Title II, monies. So there's very little general fund monies that go to, PD.
And we have to spend it, we have to spend the Title II money.
Right, yeah, I was just wondering if it was something like that, or if there was like a certain amount that can't be touched because of like contractual, whatever. And my second question was, does anybody know which Chick-fil-A is having the fundraiser on the 29th? Cause I also eat chicken and would love to support the students. I would love to come out and support the students, if somebody could tell me which Chick-fil-A to go to, and if I have to bring a flyer. Thank you, thank you. That was it, those were my comments.
Mr. President? I have a question I would like to ask.
Okay.
Can I recognize? Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, so I was reviewing the agenda earlier on the field trips, and one thing I noticed is, that there's a Chuck E. Cheese, field trip at Slocum, on March 11th, 2026. I was wondering, like, if this was part of like an extracurricular activity, and if so, which club it might be associated with, and going forward, could we like specify that on the agenda?
I'd have to look it up, I'd have to look that, I don't know specifically right now which club that was for.
Okay, yeah.
Or which group or whatnot.
The point I was like trying to get at is like, if we could like maybe specify, I mean, I know like some of it's specified, like, the outdoor club that's on the agenda, but I'm not sure about like the Chuck E. Cheese, for example, or some of the other trips, but I was wondering if we could get like a specification with that.
So I actually made this comment at several board meetings, you might have seen or heard. So if you sign in through board docs,
Yeah.
there's a link. If you're just looking at the PDF that gets emailed, the links don't work. But when you sign into board docs, we as the board members can actually see the physical handwritten ones that were scanned in. So there's sometimes a little bit further information about like how much the students will pay, or if there's overnight, if there's parent chaperones. It's a lot more informative, so just, you know,
Yeah, I mean, I saw.
check through that.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, everybody else doesn't get to see that, but for safety reasons.
I clicked through, some of the other agenda items on the attachments, but thank you.
That one's buried, you have to be logged in to see.
Yeah, no, I was logged in and then looked for other items.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. So we're gonna move into a motion to move into public comment and questions. Read the statements made by individual or
I need a
participant.
motion first.
Oh, motion?
I got a second, I need a motion.
Motion.
Got it.
Okay, so now we're gonna move to, motion to move to public comments and question session on the meeting. The statements made by individual participants are limited to duration of 5 minutes, unless otherwise announced at the beginning of the discussion. The board urged large groups to select one person to represent them. The board reminds those individuals who take the opportunity to speak to please step up to the microphone, identify themselves by name and address. The board may or may not respond to the issues identified identify themselves by name and address. The board may or may not respond to the issue raised by members of the public. All comments will be considered and response will be forthcoming if and when appropriate. The board asks the members of the public to be courteous, mindful of the rights of other individuals when speaking. Especially, the board discourages comments regarding students, employees, and will not respond to such comments. Please note that after the public discussion is closed by the president, no other question, comment from the audience will be permitted.
On the agenda or on anything?
No, on the agenda only. I will open a second.
Thank you for clarifying. Motion?
Motion?
No, that's not our,
No motion.
You wanna go first, or you want me to go first?
Wait, was it motion and second? We're good? We're good?
Yeah, sure.
Kayla Hoffman, 23 Linden Avenue, Ridgefield, New Jersey. I have actually two separate questions on the agenda. The one is under field trips. I noticed there's several schools that you're going to for athletics. Is that outside of regular, I don't understand why we're going to Morristown to play sports when we have a basketball team and a volleyball team and et cetera, and they have a regular schedule. Those were never considered field trips. So is that part of the sports traveling team, or is this like over and above? And my second comment is on policy 9130, I believe, and it has to do with the public grievances. So I read through the policy, and I'm not really sure what the process is if someone has a grievance, because it took out the old policy that was all crossed out, said if you have a problem, you bring it to the superintendent or the administrator of the building. That was all crossed out. Then it said establish a procedure, but it didn't say what the procedure was. There were 6 criteria, and all 6 criteria were crossed out. So if the public has a problem or a grievance or a complaint, who do they address it to? What is the policy? And how can you vote on something that literally doesn't tell us what to do?
Joanna Congleton Haley, 475 Abbott Avenue, Ridgefield. Same question on policy 9130, public complaints. Does this override the public ability to file grievances or ethics charges, or are we saying this is just for complaints outside of that? I think there needs to be a little bit more clarification. I'm also confused as to what the procedure is, having read the revisions that list no procedure. Thank you. I agree, that was my question.
Lisa Hoffman, this is on. Hello?
Lisa Hoffman, 823 Linden Avenue. This is in regards to bylaw 0142. There are individuals who attend this meeting who work in the district, who have children in the district, and don't feel comfortable speaking up. After the reorg meeting concluded, it was pointed out that a quorum number of trustees had white binders of information provided by a specific trustee. Prior to the board discussion, an ethics training was conducted. If there was any question of giving information to a voting majority, but not all trustees, was an ethics violation or a possible violation of New Jersey Sunshine Law, it should have been clarified during that time. I went back, I watched the video. During the discussion, the vice president and president both referred to the binders with the vice president quoting it. So that document was made part of the public record. While the camera was not on them at all times, I do want to be fair and say I did not see Theo or Borg ever read from the binders. I did not see a binder in front of Grippa, Lloyd, or Mike, and I'm led to believe, although I'm not positive, that those binders were never offered to them. So in my mind, I thought, hey, we'll never truly know what was in the binders because it wasn't asked at the time, but honestly, what could be in it that's so damning? I was aware that the next morning, at least one Oprah request was made, and it requested the meeting recording and the contents of what was in the binders. The district responded by saying they need additional time beyond the 10 business days to fulfill the Oprah request. The final response from the district stated, quote, with respect to item 2, the district conducted a good faith search and determined that it is not in possession of any potentially responsive materials, end quote. So this responsive made me question my original dismissal of the binder's contents. So I want to clarify, does the term a good faith search mean that the district went, specifically asked the trustees for their binders the way phone records would be requested, and they were told no? If the good faith search request was made by the district, either people said no or we don't have it, right? If that's the case, I'm now extremely concerned about the contents of those binders. If it was just policy in there, first of all, why wouldn't you make a copy for everyone? But more importantly, why wouldn't you share the contents? This makes us all wonder what was in those binders that was so secretive, it couldn't be given to other board members, and then was refused to be turned over in an Oprah. Last meeting, we had someone come up and they made a comment about the phones. That was also the only public comment that was not addressed by the board. At no point it was like, hey, look at my phone, there's something shady going on. I went back, I looked at the video. There was a point where somebody read their phone, got up, went to speak to to another member, and a past conversation about policy was then spoken about. So this, this makes me concerned, and it makes a lot of people concerned. We don't, it's starting to be a pattern, and we don't want to request things. We don't want you to have a fine. We don't want to create a paper trail that when you run for other positions, this follows you. I do want to say that this meeting has been better, but we just want everybody to do what they have to do. But in the policy, I went back and I read the policy because it is up tonight, it is on the agenda. So I have two questions. Can members just not comply with an OPA if they want to, be like, hey, I'm not handing it over? And then what, right? If they're just like, hey, I'm not gonna give it to you, what's the next course of action? I hope we never get to that point again, because like I said, tonight is a lot better. And two, what will the board do if these behaviors happen? If there is one person who, or two people or whatever, that is seen and they're openly violating something that could be considered an ethics violation, it shouldn't have to be on the public. What are the steps that the boards do? I did not see that in the policy.
Anybody else? Okay. Motion to close public comments and questions.
Motion.
Second.
Any old business?
I'm sorry, I have a comment on the agenda. So I just looked up what, Mr. Joe had raised the question about, the field trip in question. Because it didn't come across as something I remembered standing out. On this document that's presented to the public, it says student population, general education, and regular education, and sometimes both. And that doesn't match what the forms scanned in say. So I think it would be very detrimental to not approve any field trips at this meeting, since we don't have another meeting planned for another month. However, I think it should be noted to the public that what is in the table does not match the language of what we're voting on.
So this is a Chippewa Learning Center.
Right. Yeah. But in the past, I do remember last school year, they said Learning Center on the, or LC. It said like SSLC or Army SLC, and it's not indicated here. So I just wanted to put that out for everyone and to thank Mr. Joe for pointing that out, because that was something that when I looked at the actual scan, it just didn't occur to me that the language didn't match up, but everybody should be clear so for the sake of transparency.
Thank you. So now we're moving to old business, open.
When you say open, are we making a motion to open?
No, we don't need a motion.
No, we don't need a motion.
Oh, okay. I have old business. So at the last meeting, do I need this? Can you hear me? Are you
No, I can hear you.
Okay. So, at the last meeting, again, I was also asked about the binders more than once, multiple times. As you know, I reached out to you as the president, like courtesy member to member. I was kind of disappointed to not get a direct answer. It felt a little like there was something to hide. So I don't know, I feel very uncomfortable with the fact that I didn't get a direct answer. And I also do feel left out, and I just want to put it on record, I felt left out. Like, having it pointed out to me by members of the public, hey, you were one of the people left out from something everybody else got. Also, a couple comments were made specifically by people who were voted into leadership positions of this board. Both the president and vice president, after being nominated and confirmed to that position, later stated in the meeting at different points that they intended to lead this board the way that a specific individual in the town would like to see, or that they would carry that specific individual's vision forward. And that made me extremely uncomfortable after we all take an oath to do our best impartially and fairly for the needs of all of our stakeholders. So I just really question and feel deeply uncomfortable about those comments and wanted to address it. So I know it's old business and we can have a discussion on it if we feel we need to. I just wanted it on record that it bothered me.
Mr. President, I'd like to piggyback on top of Ms. Hoffman. I too felt left out. When I was president, everybody got whatever we distributed. And there seemed to be some innuendo. Well, you know, sometimes the optic is the bad thing. But when someone makes a request, in other words, colleague to colleague, and doesn't get a response, I think that reinforces the question. And I ask you, would you care to comment about the binder or Mr. Joe? What was it? It's in an open meeting. What is it, please?
First of all, I apologize if I offended you in any way. That was not my intention, or if I didn't answer you. I thought I did, but I apologize. The binder, it had some of the stuff that was in the copy, that I made copy before. It had a potential, my notes, if Mr. Joe was gonna be promoted to vice president, some notes to speak about him. It had some notes about me if I was nominated. So it had my personal note, nothing now, there's like 3 pages. I threw it out when I got home. I didn't really think it was a big deal, me personally. So I do want to apologize to you if I came across as hiding something or nothing. It was not my intention. And I know there is some tension, and I said it on my email that I sent over to you guys. My goal is to listen, not to take sides, and to, for the next 11 months, I'm counting, to do my best. And that's what I'm going to say.
Mr. President, can I respond?
You could.
All right, thank you. So with the binders, my proposals, they were communicated to Dr. Anemone, Kelvin, the days prior to the meeting. I was hoping that all board members would have ample time to review them. Unfortunately, I'm not putting the blame on anyone, but we only had like a day between the end of winter break and our reorg meeting. So that kind of caused a little bit of confusion. That's why I decided we should not vote on this at that meeting, because many, like other board members, did not have a chance to review them. So they contain the policy proposals that I mentioned in the meeting, and I apologize for not including you all. That is a mistake on my part. I am sincerely sorry for that, and it will not happen again.
So is that what the other binders, did your
Yeah.
binder?
If,
Mine.
I was,
Can I speak?
I was going,
President?
Yeah, go ahead.
If you would like a copy, I have it, so
Thank you.
I can, after this meeting, my card's
Thank
right there, I'll give it
I
all.
appreciate that.
Of course.
Thank you.
Lori, just like I gave
He
my
carries
iPad
it.
back, that's in the garbage. I'd rather read it here, so.
Just one other comment, Mr. Joe, if I may, in other words, you made a comment, I just want to get clarification, that there was a delay because winter break. You mean your winter break?
no, the school winter break.
What school?
This school district. It was, I sent the, I believe I sent a communication via email on January 4th, or it was like I had access to my email before I was sworn in.
There was a period that school was closed?
Yeah, this school district.
That's what you're referring to.
What does that have to do with an email? We go 24/7.
No,
Because he emailed,
The Dr. Anemone and Kelvin, and they were,
You emailed you emailed them. Is that what you're saying?
yeah.
They were on vacation, so to their benefit, they don't have to look at your email on there, so. That's why you.
There would be like a less coordination, so that's.
I think it was, I mean, for me, it was more about the copies for some of us, not all of us, that.
Okay.
No, I understand, I apologize, I sincerely apologize for that. I had all my, that I have here, keywords that he got nominated, how great he was, if I was nominated, said some thank you, that was my note.
Mr. President, I also want to give a response. Everyone in the school board's here for the district and for nobody. We are here for everybody, the kids, stakeholders, and everybody. We don't answer to anybody else. We all work here together to represent the district. So nobody's here answering to anybody. So I'm not going to be included in any kind of talk like that, because I'm here for the right reasons, to make sure that we're running the district well. And if we all have to make hard decisions, we're going to make hard decisions together. It's a nonpartisan school board. Okay.
I agree, but at the last meeting, two members did say that they were making
I
changes
didn't say anything.
based on one resident of Richfield.
I didn't say anything.
No, you didn't. You weren't part of that.
If I did, I apologize, but I don't think, we could talk later.
Can I also, yeah, so for me, it's, I believe, if I recollect correctly, it was about giving credit, to a specific individual, but I'll mention very clear, that, the people that I think about is the people of Richfield, our students, our staff, and so, it's not about a specific individual, it's more about giving them credit if I recollect my comments correctly, so that was what I was trying. Not that I'm like leading someone's footsteps or like.
Any more comments?
Also one more thing.
Okay.
I do have a concern about what's on the, is this the appropriate time?
Yeah,
Yeah. So I do have a concern with, I believe this policy was made in very good faith, policy 0145. My concern with that is, I see that it was cited, when, P1, that is the policy section.
Page 33.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so,
33. The number of pages, yeah, right. So it's the policy section, that's what you're
yeah. My concern with policy, the agenda item P1, bylaw 0145, the revising that policy, my concern is, does it violate, does it violate NJSA 18A:12-3, which is, let me see. Does it violate NJSA 18A:12-3 because that's statute sets criteria for a board member's removal. And I'm just,
I'm sorry, can you show us where in the minutes 0145 is, because I have a list of them and it doesn't list 0145.
It's on the agenda.
It's in the agenda.
Thank you.
and I also want to note for the record, this is about, making sure that we follow state law, no matter like, whether we support the policy or not, it's just about following state law.
So anyone who is unsure of any of the policies that they want to vote on, you can table it.
At least like in the consent agenda, like when we go on the consent agenda.
Yeah, now, I'm moved to voting, you could.
You can make a motion to modify the particular resolution to remove that particular one, or to table it and refer it back to the policy committee.
Like, can we refer it to,
Well, you'd have to make a motion
okay.
for that.
Unless they're gonna say something else.
Okay, so we're gonna move to a resolution for action, approval of the following consent, item J1 through Q3. Roll call.
Mr. Bark?
Yes, but no on P1.
So I'm sorry, when did that motion to table occur?
The consent agenda was on.
Because now some people already voted, so.
I asked and Mr. Joe said that he wasn't
Oh,
gonna.
no, I thought you meant that was like.
I thought it wasn't
speaking.
the right time, that was
No,
the
no,
right time.
no motion is being made.
Okay, motion to,
I,
Table.
like,
There's no
Table.
motion being made.
Yeah, motion to
You're just
table.
discussing the process.
Yeah, no, I thought you meant, sorry, I thought you meant like, was I finished speaking, but, is the motion appropriate right now?
No,
Or-
when you get to the consent items.
Okay.
Do it again.
okay, so approval of the following consent, J1 through Q3, roll call,
I need a motion.
motion,
so can I motion to pull something from the agenda to be tabled?
I think you're in the minutes.
Yes.
Alright, so I would like to motion, that all of P1 and 2 both be sent to the policy committee, since it's been established for that purpose, that they just do their due diligence and review it before the next board meeting.
Need a second?
Second.
Motion.
Motion? Carried.
No, no, you, roll call.
Okay.
And then all motion to refer, right?
This is a motion to
So we're
hold
just
those
voting.
two and take them to the policy committee.
Motion about the other consent item.
Motion to consent item.
Jacob, J1.
J
No, you
one,
have to do a roll call.
roll call.
For
Yeah, but I need to do a roll call for the motion that,
table the two items.
oh, okay.
And then this way it'll kind of modify the underlying motion, so
Gotcha.
we're gonna.
Okay, so motion to table those two items.
Mr. Boric,
Yes, but
Yeah, just, you table those two motions.
we're voting on the tabling of the
Yes.
motion there. Mr. Christolius?
Yes.
Mr. Griff is absent, Ms. Hoffman?
Yes.
Mr. Jacobs?
Yes.
Mr. Joe?
Yes.
Mr. Marilla?
Yeah.
Motion carries.
So now the consent agenda would be J1 through Q3 minus P1 and P2.
P1 and P2. Okay. Approval of following consent J1 through Q2, except P1 and P2, the table,
Minus P1.
minus P1 and P2. Okay, roll call.
So I need a motion.
Motion?
Motion.
Second.
Okay, roll call.
Mr. Boric?
yes.
Mr. Christolius? Mr. Griff is absent, Ms. Hoffman?
Yes.
Mr. Jacobs?
Yes.
Mr. Patrick?
Yes.
Mr. Joe, I'm sorry.
No, no worries. Yes.
Mr. Marilla?
Yeah.
Motion carries.
So now we're gonna move to public comments and questions on anything. So let me read the statement before we go there. Statement made by individual participant listed to the duration of 5 minutes unless otherwise announced at the beginning of the discussion. The board urged large group to select one person to be presented. The board reminds those individuals who take the opportunity to speak to please step up to the microphone, identify themselves by name and address. The board may or may not respond to issues raised by the member of the public. All content will be sincere and responded will be forthcoming if and when appropriate. The board asks all members of the public to be courteous, mindful of the right of all individuals when speaking. Especially the board discards comments regarding students, employees, and will not respond to such comments. Please note that after the public discussion is closed by the president, no other questions, comments from the audience will be permitted.
I have a question. Last meeting, stuff came up at new business that we wanted to take action on, so we reopened public comments. If that happens again in new business, are we able to reopen public comments again?
I wanna keep this meeting to a format. I'm always open, I don't want you to think I'm very rigid on my thing. So I really encourage to keep the format that I originally intended at the beginning of the meeting. No back and forth, that is established many years ago, and the last year or 2 or 3 years, it's been broken back and forth. So, if it is, I would not object. I have a lot of respect for you. If you think there is a need at that time like that, I will bend the rules.
There's nobody, the motion, just make a motion.
A motion, and we can
I know,
look at
because
it.
he doesn't like the microphone. Too loud.
Motion to public comment. Anything.
Motion.
Erica Reed, 685 Virgil Avenue, Richmond, New Jersey. Alright, good evening, members of the Board of Education. I'm standing here tonight because I want to address some of the concerns and backlash that followed from the recent student walkout this Tuesday. I would first like to clarify that in no shape or form was this protest against the school, the Board of Education, or the Richmond Police Department, as there have been claims by multiple people that this was the case. I'm not here to elaborate on what our cause was, but just to ensure that we are all on the same page, Tuesday's protest was standing up to ICE for the atrocities that they have done without bearing any consequences. There have been claims that this event was politically motivated by the school or encouraged by adults in positions of authority. This is simply not the truth. No teachers, no faculty members, no administrators, and no members of the Board of Education expressed political opinions either for or against the cause. The entire walkout was organized by students of Richmond Memorial High School, and it was for the students of Richmond Memorial High School. The role was not to promote a message, but to support students in exercising their voices safely. Their priority was student safety, supervision, and ensuring that no one was put at risk. That is not political activism, that is responsible leadership. What occurred was students choosing to participate in a peaceful walkout, an act that is protected under the First Amendment of the United States Constitution. The First Amendment in verbatim states, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press, or the right of the people peacefully to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. This right is not a suggestion or a preference. It is a foundational principle of our country. It is something we have learned about in school, and it is something that we have been tested on more than once. And it is something that matters, in my opinion, in this case, a little more than school policy, which is why the walkout happened. Because school policy exists under the Constitution and not above it. So for those who want to pretend that this student body is not educated or wants to call our protest nonsense, or forgive me for using the word stupid, you couldn't be more in the wrong. As a matter of fact, we are applying things we have learned from our country's own history and in school by showing everyone a real life situation where we had our walkout. The walkout was peaceful, non-violent, and non-disruptive. Students did not cause harm, destroy property, or interfere with instruction beyond the brief and organized act of protest itself. To clarify, the protest started at approximately 2 p.m. on Tuesday, and I was back in my classroom, which is on the 3rd floor, by 2:23 p.m. Also, it was outside of the school building, and school conduct expectations were still followed. Students remained respectful, orderly, and calm. There was no chaos, there was no threat, there was simply expression. Some adults have claimed that their taxpayer dollars paid for this protest, but being a student is not just about sitting in a classroom and earning good grades. Education is not limited to textbooks and exams. It is also about learning how to exist in a democracy. Schools where we learn how to think critically, how to speak up, and how to stand for what we believe is right, and how to participate in civic life respectfully. If students are taught about democracy but then get punished or seen as less for practicing it, then the lesson becomes meaningless. What happened on January 20th, 2026 was students using their voices in a safe space. They were able to express opinions without fear, without violence, and without disruption. That is not a failure of education, that is education working exactly as it should be. We should be glad and grateful to be in a school district where students feel so secure and safe that they're able to stand up and speak up towards the injustices that they see in the world. And I couldn't honestly find a better example than what happened 2 days ago. I want to end by thanking the Board of Education for choosing not to give us severe consequences for the walkout, because that decision reflects an understanding of something deeply important. Students were exercising an inalienable right. An inalienable right is a fundamental and inherent right that belongs to all people simply by virtue of being human. The right to speak, to assemble peacefully, and to express beliefs is not something that disappears at the school setting. It is not something that depends on popularity or comfort. It is something guaranteed to us as people in the United States of America. Thank you for recognizing that. Thank you for protecting student safety. And thank you for understanding that by allowing students to use their voices responsibly is not a threat to education, but a reflection of its purpose. Thank you.
Lisa Hoffman, 823 Linden Avenue. Thank you for confirming that there was no consequence. I was not at the protest. I'm glad from all reports it was peaceful and nobody got hurt. With that said, regardless of people's political beliefs, we need to ask, how was this handled? Now that we have a new administration and a new board, what precedent does it set? Does this precedent open the district up to discrimination claims or other legal liability with regards to past instances? Does it in any way limit how existing rules can be enforced in the future? Liberal or conservative issue, I will always advocate for the board to avoid lawsuits and possible legal liability. Under New Jersey state law, students do have the right to protest, wear pins, hand out flyers, etc. If this was done before or after school, I'd have no comment at this meeting. For the seniors who signed out for the day, in my mind, they were no longer students at the time of the protest. But for the underclassmen who were supposed to be in class, a walkout falls under the category of substantially disrupting the educational environment, which is not protected by law. It is specifically not protected by law. Additionally, by leaving the school premise and going to the park, they left school grounds, which is a violation of district policy, which is also not trumped by the right to protest. When I attended the Richfield School District, 4th graders were allowed to leave for lunch. Our local businesses loved it. It helped Richfield's economy. However, the Board of Ed decided to move to a closed lunch with the argument that once students enter the building, the school is legally responsible for them until dismissal. Other than seniors who get written permission from the beginning of the year from their parents, students are not allowed to leave the school during lunch or study hall. In fact, students can't even leave the cafeteria during their lunch without permission. This district is currently being sued and one of the complaints in the suit is that they wouldn't let a girl spend her lunch period outside of the cafeteria. So then why is this different? Why don't these students need to stay where they were assigned? With hundreds, there are literally like 350 comments online. Do you think her lawyer isn't paying attention to how this is being handled? Now, yes, I understand students leave the building for gym class, field trips, and fire drills. However, attendance is taken in all of those cases. My question is, were these students, when they left, was attendance taken? Did the school district know who was leaving the building and when? My issue is, regardless of what is being protested, allowing students to just walk out causes safety and legal liability. If attendance was taken, you know exactly who should receive a cut, or any other punishment that you would give someone else who did that. I'm not saying you should overreact to the situation, but I do feel that some sort of formal acknowledgement that they violated school policy, they chose to do it, they're proud of it, they have a cause, good for them, but they violated school policy, and the district does not condone violating policy. And for the record, I don't think the board, to my knowledge, voted that there should be no consequence. I think it was just not done by the administration. Not only to discourage it from happening again in the future, but to protect the district legally. The next protest might not be in regards to a national issue. What happens when students see they get more attention with a protest instead of coming to a Board of Ed meeting, so they just start walking out of class to make a statement? Hypothetically, if a student didn't agree with the teacher and randomly got up in the middle of class and left, they'd be given a cut. If they left the building, they'd be suspended. If the student got mad, left the building, called the parent who told them to get back to school and were only gone for 15 minutes, they could face suspension for leaving the premises. If you don't enforce some sort of consequences now, all the student needs to do is cut the class or leave school property and say, oh, it was a protest. If you do enforce a consequence for somebody else, it could be considered discrimination, since under NJ law, the intent to discriminate does not have to be there. Only the fact that somebody who identifies as some sort of other was put at a disadvantage. At that point, you lost complete control. Students have the right to free speech, but that right is limited. They cannot use hate speech, they can't use foul language, scream fire, make false allegations, or bully others without consequences. They also have the right to protest, but not to substantially disrupt educational environment or violate existing school policy, which did happen. And on a personal note, and this, I heard very different things, and this is from students themselves and from multiple parents. I was very upset that I heard that there were consequences, be it self-imposed, for those who didn't participate. There's other stuff I'm not gonna say in the meeting because I don't have all the facts, but I was very upset about it. I was told by multiple parents that, and their kids don't hang out, they're not friends. People signed that either didn't come to school on Tuesday or they called and asked the parent to pick them up so they wouldn't feel pressure to take part in the walkout. We already have an absenteeism issue, and this didn't help it. But more importantly, the fact that these kids felt the need to leave school to avoid what they felt was an uncomfortable situation shows that at least on 2 p.m. on Tuesday, we failed at having RMHS be the safe and inclusive environment we strive for it to be. It's not okay for the parents of the kids who didn't protest, had to leave work to sign their kids out. In fact, if the kids who were protesting were signed out by their parents, this would be a non-issue, since the district would have no legal responsibility for them. However, that's not how this went down. Once again, I don't believe the district should overreact, but I do fear that by not enforcing consequences, we have problems.
Okay, thank you. Any more comments?
I have one, but I don't know if anyone else wants to.
Joanna Congleton Haley, 475 Abbott Avenue in Bridgefield. I want to speak first as our mayor and council liaison to the Board of Education. We have a couple of really great events coming up in the borough in the next couple of weeks. We are officially sponsoring the crescent lighting this year as part of our celebration and welcoming Ramadan. That's going to be on February 11th at 7 p.m. Dr. Adamo, tomorrow I'm going to send the flyer to you to please share with our principals and our students to get our community involved. I also wanted to say on a personal level, thank you. We are in the middle of basketball season right now. We have great mutual respect and shared support with our Board of Education and with our Recreation Department in terms of usage of fields and the buildings when it's cold. So thank you all for the approvals on that. And then we love when we get to reciprocate, you know, the pool and the playground and our outdoor spaces are utilized by the school. So it's a really nice partnership. I just wanted to acknowledge that tonight. Our special education parent advisory group is working really collaboratively with Ms. Ramon. She's been a great leader for us. We have our next meeting probably coming up in February. Ms. Ramon and the special education team in the district are setting up an overview of the IEP process and what an IEP is to really help our parents understand that. I would recommend maybe some of the board members, I can certainly invite you as well, especially if you don't understand why the importance of some field trips exists for our Learning Center students. If you have questions, I would love to fill you in on that. In these meetings, if you would want more information, just reach out to me, I'll be glad to invite you. Again, we are collaborating with our schools on the America 250 logo contest. Not everybody realizes that the borough seal for Ridgefield was designed by a high school student while I was a student here. It was not me, I'm not an artist. And that's been our borough seal for the last 27 years. We're not gonna talk about how long some of us have been out of high school. So we're trying to bring that back. We will be using a selected design by a Ridgefield school student to represent Ridgefield's America 250 celebration. So those are going to be due at the end of the month. We're excited to be partnering with our art teachers. I also want to address something that was recently on social media regarding our Ridgefield High School students. And I don't think that a lot of people realized how involved our students are until this really became a thing that I saw this week on social media. So I wanted to thank the Ridgefield Education Association for their amazing service work that they're doing with our students. Beyond the work our students do on a daily basis, they do community service projects constantly. This week alone, they facilitated 500 meal bags to a food pantry in Patterson. They provided 500 meals to people in need, to people who might be feeling fearful or not have enough for their families. So I wanted to thank the REA, I wanted to thank our high school students, I wanted to thank the fact that it was something that was so wonderfully positive about the great work that our students do constantly in this district, and I wanted to celebrate that with you all tonight. Thank you so much, have a great evening.
Anyone else? Okay, so now motion to close public comment or questions. Roll call.
No motion.
No motion.
Second? Second.
So now, Theo, you want to comment?
Yeah, I wanted to say, Lisa, you wrote a strong letter, noted, okay, and, you know, it's very important that this Board of Ed and district is nonpartisan. You know, we don't want anyone to feel uncomfortable, especially a kid. So, I just wanna see everyone treated respectfully. If you don't agree with somebody, you can talk to them. Me, I like to debate people, so I have no problem talking. When you can't talk to somebody and you can't treat them with respect, that's when you know you lost it, okay? So it's very important that everybody remembers, not everybody has to agree with you, okay? So it goes for the kids too. Treat everybody nicely. Not everyone in life can agree with you. It is what it is. I see this every day at work. So just everybody please remember that. We want to stay right in the middle of everybody and keep everybody happy.
Since I was personally addressed, I want to make it clear, my goal is always for fairness to everybody.
That's what I'm
I'm
trusting.
sorry, Lisa. Anybody else want to make a comment? for new business.
Yeah, so one of the proposals I talked, not talked, emailed about was, like the reestablishment of 0155.1. I believe, is there like an amendment that you'd like to make, or?
Yeah, I think, listen, having two people on, remote, I think that's a little bit too much. I think we need to have a system in place where if one person needs to be remote and we have an emergency for a second one on a rare occasion, I think we should consider having it granted, but there needs to be rules on it. So, I'm gonna use some examples. Let's say he has 3 remote, I have 3 remote, he has no remotes. If he wants to go remote, he should have priority for the remote. So I think, that's why it's gonna be fair, and it's gonna be equally distributed among everybody, if they need it. So I guess we can keep a tally, Kelvin, just goes through and we keep a tally to make sure everything's gonna be fair and equal. This way nobody's has priority, this way somebody else needs it, they can use it.
I'd like to clarify, is there an open motion when we're talking about something going through, or are we just having a discussion right now?
No, we're having discussion.
Okay.
All right, thank you. I have a statement, if I may. Mr. Joe comes out, the policy man, charged up, and I can respect the passion. However, our president established committees. Again, the previous administration had less. So why, and this is a question, are we talking about this now as opposed to being referred to a policy committee, which you are the chair? And as I understand it, under my administration, items went to the policy committee discussed them, tweaked them, and if the majority of the committee saw fit, it was referred to the whole board. I see that with our president. So why all of a sudden are we fast tracking as opposed to following a proper form? And I would appreciate a comment.
Yeah, so yeah, I mean, yeah, so I think, like, it was kind of a flowing, situation. By that, what I mean is, like, plans were changing, but is it the board's desire to refer to the policy committee for?
So Mr. Jacob, I think, and can I intervene?
Yeah.
It's a learning experience. I mean, this is the first year of the, so let's cut him a break. Let's put this stuff in the, committee, and on the, policy committee, and then let's.
Duly noted, absolutely, but again, in other words, if you.
No, thank you for bringing it up.
Thank you.
Also, if we moved all the other policies
Yeah.
from the consent agenda, it makes sense to
It
have
makes
the
sense, yeah.
It
committee
makes sense, so.
Yes, please.
tailor everything and do their due diligence